good evening, good morning, good afternoon, good whenever, wherever you are in the world. I am your host, your magnificent, beautiful host of Speaker's Corner, Tim Byron in all my glory. And it is my pleasure and honour to be such, and your honour to be watching me too. I suppose I am British, but using the royal we is a bit of a stretch. Yet I cover numerous subjects on this programme in an informative and comprehensible manner, and my own attempt at humour. However, today's subject is not so humorous, although it is extremely important. That's right. We've been waiting for it for a while. Juggling. No, I mean the COVID vaccine, and what a truly inspiring endeavour of human accomplishment they are that have to forego the temptation to talk about the loss of a certain someone's social media platforms and the madness of the inauguration. But okay, sure, he will cover that himself. I know he will. COVID, yes, that plague of modernity that has crippled the planet to not even a crawl, but a standstill, a paralysis on a global scale of economic, cultural, artistic, and human devastation. Almost 2 million people have died, as of this recording, from 89.4 million cases worldwide. This is an astonishingly lethal and rapid compiler of casualties, the likes of which world wars would compare to. Suffice to say that this contagion is one of the worst that has ever inflicted humanity as a whole. That lethality that many of you locked down in your homes wondering when you can start seeing your best gal on Tinder again. And honestly, that devastation across the globe is why there was such a press to get the vaccine out as soon as possible. I can already read some of your comments. Why should I take the vaccine when it's obvious that they rushed it out there? It's not safe. Well, there's no way that the vaccine should be something to administer when it came out within the year, and it usually takes years to develop other ones. Well, usually, yes, but what has been usual lately? And about this whole situation? What? You still worried? Worry not, friends, for I am here to assuage your concerns, to allay your fears, to inoculate you from ignorance. See what I did there? Oh, blast. Consider how long it took to develop practically every other vaccine in existence. A recent scourge that rampaged through multiple national communities in the form of Ebola had its vaccine come out in 2020. You can't say this year was all bad, even though scientists were able to link the pathogen to the disease in the late 70s. So it only took over 40 years until the vaccination's fruition. Polio had around the same time frame, since associating the pathogen to that monster of a disease, there are others that require much longer to develop, such as meningitis and typhoid fever. Therefore, it is reasonable for one to ask, is the COVID vaccine valid? How can medicine have already developed a vaccine in such a short amount of time, given the lengths it took to develop the like for similarly infectious other diseases? Slight reminder that vaccines are not cures. The way a vaccine generally works is it infects one with a really teeny tiny amount of the disease, such as that one's immune system can attack it, remember the assailant, and thus protect the body from future invasions. Imagine that your body is a fortress. Well, my body is a temple, but I digress. Right. Suppose this body, this magnificent beast of a fortress, had potentially a giant army come and attack it. Oh no! What are we to do? Well, we could emulate how a much smaller, say, infinitesimally smaller portion of that invading army would attack us, fight it off, and extrapolate that strategy to a grander scale. That is exactly what the body does after vaccination. However, not everyone can get a vaccine for a multitude of reasons, which is why it is all the more important for those of us that can get one to get one. See here. Well, I suppose not, but on my thigh is where I received my MMR vaccine as a wee babe. That marvelous inoculation protected me from mumps, measles, and rubella, a trifecta all in one shot. The wonders of science. The more people like me receive the shot, then the more it protects those that are unable to do so. Consider it like a PK, but let's say that magically all the goalkeeper's teammates can also line up to defend the kick. The more of the opposition stands in front of the shooter, the less likely the goalkeeper is the one that has to stop the kick. That is why we should vaccinate ourselves. Not so much for ourselves, although that is an obvious benefit, but more so for those that cannot vaccinate for medically valid reasons, such as too young, too old, or immunocompromised. We are all on the same team, united against this, and COVID-19 is trying to make another goal, so let's do our best to collectively stop it. This is a concept known as herd immunity and not herd mentality. Right, back to COVID. The production of COVID vaccines is truly an unprecedented scientific accomplishment, one that one hopes will be a continuation of how such a process continues unfurling in the future. Now, you must be wondering, why is this such a medical hallmark? Otherwise, you wouldn't be here, right? Well, maybe for my glorious and well-tanned and perfectly sculpted body. Fret not, for there are 3 primary reasons as to why the vaccines came out so quickly and, most importantly, so reliably. Attention! Number 1, resources. There was a worldwide commitment to eradicate the virus as quickly as possible, and as such, a commitment from almost all countries to invest in its obliteration. Number 2, familiarity. COVID-19 is a coronavirus, as its name implies, a category of viruses with which medicine is intimately familiar from prior recent epidemics such as SARS and MERS. Number 3, previous learnings. Now, one could argue that this is arguably the most important component to the vaccine's relative light-speed developments. All that modern medicine had learned from other diseases and vaccine developments from the previous century helped accelerate this process. There you are. 3. It's the magic number. Or is that 7? 11? Topic for another day, maybe. Now we have the foundation of what led to such quick development for the vaccines, not to mention necessity. But let's dive into these components, shall we? Number 1, resources. Straight cash, homie. Oh dear, never you mind that. COVID-19, or SARS-CoV-2, per its medical nomenclature, disrupted the globe almost nearly from its onset in rapid time. I may delve into the virus itself later and the devastating impact it has had, but suffice it to say that the following is a very brief synopsis. The first cases started appearing in the city of Wuhan in China in late 2019, with its first identification in November and confirmation in December. It spread rapidly, so quickly that the Chinese government shut down the region around Wuhan to contain its spread, but was too late by that point. However, they did do something that would prove invaluable to the scientific community. They published the virus's genome sequence on the 10th of January 2020. We will get into why that was invaluable shortly. Nevertheless, the virus persisted, causing untold havoc in Europe and then across the Americas, although not nearly as much damage as in Asia and Africa, relatively speaking. I'll get to why shortly. Now, This rampage led to thousands of deaths in the more prominent countries as cases increased massively with a relatively high mortality rate. Covid-19, so named because it was a coronavirus identified in 2019, no Kellyanne Conway, they don't go in order, but Covid-18, pardon me, ladies and gents, as I was saying, was a very dangerous virus because it was not only extremely infectious, but also quite lethal. An obviously terrible combination, and most importantly, as Japan, who has dealt with it remarkably well, suspected far before the WHO and other bodies that it is an airborne virus, crippling in the sense that it paralyzed many nations' economies to the point in which they had to shut down completely in an attempt to contain the virus's spread. Let's say that some were more successful than others with their lockdown attempts, whilst others handled their situations with aplomb by following the proper scientific precautions, such as limiting contact with others, closing businesses, and providing their constituents means with which to survive, enforcing wearing the bloody mask, and more. In fact, the more sensible ones did not even have to be told to take such precautions. We value our democracy and freedom of choice, but it comes at a price, and in this case, the price is to work as a community. Unfortunately, many failed to do so, leading to multiple lockdowns. UK included. Even despite these best attempts, and non-attempts, there was a massive impetus to help curb the virus, and the best way to do that is through a vaccine. Thus, money. It may be the root of all evil, but it can sure help remedy it at times. The very soul of money as a solution to all ills, which in this case is literal, the United States injected, pun intended, $18 billion into finding a cure via its Operation Warp Speed. This dramatic infusion of cash went to various pharmaceutical companies and placed a clear priority on creating a vaccine for this deadly disease wreaking havoc on the world. The US wasn't the only nation to provide funds, as it was truly a global effort, with unbelievable injections of funds and sharing of information. The more companies and countries that could collaborate to eradicate this scourge, the easier it became. Additionally, there was a lessening of regulations due to the urgency of producing a vaccine. Therefore, trial stages that would normally take years occurred in months. Not just that, but pharmaceutical companies could undertake multiple stages at the same time as safety concerns lessened due to the pressing nature of this monster rampaging the earth. Companies were able to take more risks due to the massive infusion of resources, along with the lessened safety protocols to produce their vaccines more quickly. These were calculated risks, and those undergoing the trials knew full well of them. If symptoms emerged, they were quickly addressed and investigated, and trials out on hold as well. These trials were not just taking place in one nation, but simultaneously in many nations. Impressive, isn't it? That was reason number one. But number two is very important. Familiarity. Yes, medical science is fairly aware of coronaviruses, as it is a type of virus that has a particular shape. It looks like a crown, hence corona. Most parents are aware that their children regularly catch coronaviruses, and that is why, initially, there was less of a focus on children getting COVID than any other age demographics due to how frequently they get other coronaviruses. However, the more infamous coronaviruses in recent years are SARS and MERS. These two coronaviruses, and not viri, thank you very much, were much in the news in this millennium. They caused similar suffering and deaths in some parts of the world, but not to the global scale that COVID-19 clearly has. Scientists were well on their way to crafting vaccines for COVID-10 thanks to their efforts on these deadly viruses. How, you may wonder? Well, thanks to studying how SARS and MERS infected the body, scientists gauged that one of the best ways to produce the vaccine was to use mRNA, or messenger RNA. A typical vaccine infuses one's immune system with the virus itself, but these inoculations implant a message for one's messenger RNA to create a protein of the disease, so that will infect the body. Now, it turns out that this method was more effective at creating a truer, although obviously much more diminished, replicant of the virus, and thus permit the immune system to create the antibodies necessary to fight off the virus and destroy it, should one ever encounter it. Now, it is thanks to the efforts of already paying attention to coronaviruses, particularly SARS and MERS, that the current COVID-19 vaccinations came out so relatively quickly. The wonders of knowing what one already knows. Additionally, one of the many major drawbacks to COVID-19 is how infectious it is, but that could also prove to be its undoing. The trial stages for the vaccines that these mRNA-focused inoculations used went by exceptionally quickly thanks to how infectious the disease is. Normally, it can be quite cumbersome for vaccine trials to culminate into a solution, but these were relatively easy due to the high infection rate. Therefore, it was a lot faster than normal to test the efficacy of the treatments due to so many people having it. The trials not only had the benefit of atypically high resources, but also abnormally high amounts of participants. Finally, previous learnings from other pandemics and endemics were what led to these vaccinations coming out so quickly. The HIV pandemic, which was the last official pandemic according to the WHO before COVID-19, taught the world a lot about how to treat deadly diseases infecting the world at large. The protein that the messenger RNA instructs the body to create was a concept that started with research into HIV, and then later SARS and MERS. The obvious familiarity between the three coronaviruses, SARS, MERS, and COVID-19, made it all the easier to correlate the mRNA vaccination method as a potential solution, although there are a few others out there in the works that do look to be quite promising. The treatment for HIV also led to how to treat COVID-19 once one has it. Such as one patient that received an infamous cocktail full of remdesivir and dexamethasone to help relieve him of the disease. He did so little to stop spread. These cocktails came from previous studies in treatments for HIV and the more lethal Ebola virus. Another lesson learned from Ebola and Zika were how to coordinate global responses, which helped build the infrastructure such that the US could release 2 vaccinations within weeks of each other, and a week after the UK's AstraZeneca one. Global health has improved substantially since SARS, which would have been much more dire had it spread at COVID-19's rate due to the lack of coordination and vaccine technology. The infrastructure to test and respond relatively rapidly helped lead to quick developments of the vaccines, thanks to lessons that scientists and global health professionals gained from previous deadly endemics. All that to say, get a vaccine if you can! I'm no doctor, but for you, my lovelies, I mingled with them to get this information across to you, my gorgeous lovelies. Look at you sitting there. Aren't you attractive today? Do consult with your medical care provider in any case, but you should absolutely vaccinate yourself from COVID-19 if at all possible. Yes, that means you. These vaccines are safe because they have undergone rigorous testing and verification to ensure that they are safe for you to take and protect not only yourself, but others especially those that cannot vaccinate. Would you ride an aeroplane? And yes, Americans, aeroplane, not airplane. Would you ride an aeroplane in the bumpiest possible turbulence without a seatbelt? You may not die from doing so, but the turbulence could still cause you considerable damage, and you could hurt the person sitting next to you as well. That is why it is imperative that you get a vaccine as soon as you are able and as safely as possible. For the sake of those who cannot, some may be related to you without even knowing. Of course, there might be side effects due to inoculation. That is inevitable, such as those from the actual virus itself, shortness of breath, fatigue, and acute loss of taste or smell. Some side effects meaning not drinking, alcohol. Kiss me. Yes, that's right. The Russian vaccine, dubbed Sputnik 5, includes a request from the doctors administering it that one not drink for 2 months, 2 weeks before the inoculation and the 42 days after its injection. What could possibly go wrong in Russians abstaining from alcohol during a shutdown in the winter? Although one wonders if there is much difference at all. Oh, I'm only joking with you, my Russian viewers. Tvorich! There are side effects to every vaccine, every medicine, but in this case, those are negligible compared to the severity of the virus, and the adverse side effects are beyond rare. Although I'd avoid Sputnik if that is an option. Ultimately, this message of vaccinating yourself is a really important one that I cannot stress enough. Should you have any doubts, then please feel free to submit a comment or question in the below. Unless it's urgent, then please consult a doctor. Now, on a more cheery note, a bouquet of red roses to those who send the best comments, questions, or suggestions. You will find my email address below. And that's it. Please heed what I've said, and, let me know what you think. A cheerio. Until next time, my beautiful lovelies. I love what you're wearing. Goodbye. Farewell. Please do subscribe. It helps me out a great deal, and I just want to hear from you. Like, comment, subscribe, and ring the bell. You know, all the buttons are below. Please do share. And more importantly, keep that stiff upper lip. Keep calm, carry on, and the best of this magnificent Brit to you. Pip pip. And, cheerio. Oh, hang on. There are some other channels that you probably should check out. They're in the description. They're a bit lowbrow for me, but probably worth a good laugh, at least at. In any case. Now, let me hear that bell chime. Beautiful. That's it. Mwah. I do promise you a cheerier, lighter, and far shorter topic next week. This was Speaker's Corner with me, Timothy Byron. Ta-ta! Hello again, my lovelies. Thank you so much for watching that video. It really means a lot. Well, what can I say? Keep the smile going. Do remember to subscribe, ring that bell. It helps out like you wouldn't believe. It just makes me so happy. You can see this big smile of mine. Keep calm, carry on, keep a stiff upper lip. And if you like, there are some other channels in the description. I apologise for their content, but I think they're worth a watch, probably. If anything, just to educate yourself. Best of the British to you. Pip pip, cheerio. And don't forget to subscribe. Till next time, this was Speaker's Corner. Ta-ra.